Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Top Community Association D&O Claim Trends webinar for 2024. I'm Marketing Manager Sherry Branson, and thank you for joining us today. I'm now joined by Kevin Davis, the president of Kevin Davis Insurance, and Kevin joins me right now from Los Angeles. Hi, Kevin. Hey,
Hey, Sherry, how you doing?
doing well, doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Congratulations, our first webinar for 2024.
Can you believe it? It feels like we're halfway through the year already, Kevin.
Oh, I know. It's
Busy.
hard
It's
to
been a
believe
busy.
that's our first one. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and, Kevin, we're doing it on a leap day, leap year, on the 29th. We've never done that before, so this is
Yeah.
kind of unique, a little
And
different.
we've been doing like what 12, 13 years now of these webinars, right?
Yes, 12 or 13 years, exactly, yeah. We've got quite a few webinars, and, yeah, and we're doing about 6 or 7 a year now, and, we get a good turnout. We really enjoy doing them, and if
And,
you
and you know
and you
what? I
don't
have to say, Sherry, that it's I learn a lot when I do these things because with the topics that we're talking about, I have to do some research in them also to say, okay, what are the top trends or what's going on right there, and then when I hit them, I go, wow, they're right. This is what's going on. So look, they're informative to me too, just as much as they are entertaining to do them. So this is good.
Right. Yeah, we have a lot of fun doing them, and we hope that we bring you lots of great information about what's going on in the industry, the trends that we're seeing, et cetera. And like you said, they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of
Hmm.
fun to do as well. We enjoy
Hmm.
them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Great. And we're going to put a disclaimer up on the screen now for a minute, if you could take a second to read that. And I did want to mention that I record all the webinars. I can send you the recording afterwards. And if you have any questions during today's session, please type them into the Q&A box. And if Kevin and I have time at the end, we'll answer your questions. And if you'd like a copy of the PowerPoint, please send an email to sherry.branson@amwins.com. And I'm happy to send you a copy of the PowerPoint. Now, Kevin, what are we going to talk about today? What is our main goal?
Sure, it's a new year, 2024. And what we do at the end of 2023, we get together and talk about what does 2024 look like? What kind of trends we're seeing? Are we going to see more claims, less claims? And for every year we have these meetings, we're saying the same thing. The trends are continuing. The trends are continuing. So today we'll talk about what these trends are, why they're happening, and talk about the D&O coverage too, because people don't really understand how important that D&O policy is. Because when we talk about these claims, a lot of them may be a GL claim or other types of claims, but boy, for somehow they always end up pitching themselves into the D&O, and we're looking at it and going, "Wow, I can't believe I spent $10,000 for this or $5,000 for this." So I like this topic, and I think that the people here that are listening want to learn a few things about what's happening out there and why that D&O policy is important as it is.
Absolutely. Great information. And Kevin, we definitely have to talk about board members because
Yeah.
they are the key to all of this.
Yes.
Can you tell me what is the responsibility of a board member?
Okay, then this is the important part of it because we look at what the responsibility of a board member of a community association is. It is to protect, maintain, and enhance the association. That's the job. And basically, Sherry, that means is this: you live in a HOA, right?
hmm
Okay, let's say
Yes.
all of a sudden you live in how many units you have there?
Oh, it's a big neighborhood. They're still building it, actually. It's fairly new. I think there's going to be like 3,000 homes when they're done.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
Yes, it's
okay.
huge. Yeah.
That's good because now all of a sudden now you have a board of directors who has one job is to
hmm
maintain, enhance, protect it. Their job is to
hmm
make sure that if you bought a unit in there for $250,000, that when it's time to sell it, that guess what? It's worth at least $250,000 or more. That's protecting it and enhancing it. Okay. And what they do it by collecting assessments, maintaining the common area, right? Right. And
hmm
enforcing the rules. That's the main function they do. Now,
hmm
here's the problem. The problem comes into play, especially now, and we talk about, what's happening now while this is an issue is COVID. COVID changed the way their job is being done. Okay. And the number
hmm
one thing that's happened with COVID is this. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right now it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Florida, right? That's where you're at in Florida, right?
Yes,
So right now, if you're looking at your window, and that, again, it's 11 o'clock here in Los Angeles. I look at my window. I live in a single family home, so it's not a problem. But if I was in a condo right now, I'm looking at my window, and no, first thing I'm noticing that, okay, the landscaper came, but he didn't trim the trees as well as I thought he should have trimmed the trees, or he didn't pick up some of the stuff that he should. He didn't take the trash out. So right now, I'm seeing things at 2 o'clock in the afternoon that I didn't see normally if I'm at work till 9 o'clock in the morning to five. I'm coming home at 5 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock and it's dark. I never see the things that my landscaper missed. Okay. But you're
mhm,
noticing these things now. But not only are you noticing the landscaper stuff that you missed, you also notice the pickleball court outside that's making a lot more noise because,
mm,
even though you may be a fan of pickleball, you never heard of it before, you don't like the noise they have. So that's bothering you. Okay.
mm,
Or you're walking outside and people are smoking their cigarettes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon instead of being in the office. So now these things are bothering you more and more and more and more. So when we talk about the primary responsibilities of a board, they have changed since COVID.
mhm, absolutely. Like you said, and one thing that comes to mind, Kevin, there's a trend here in Florida, landscapers, with the loud leaf blowers, et cetera. With so many people working at home, the landscaper goes by with the lawnmower, with the leaf blower, et cetera. There's a trend now to switch to electric leaf blowers, all electric, quiet. They're called quiet machines. The lawnmowers are quiet, and so there's a big trend right now for that. And the landscaper was interviewed on TV, and he said, basically, he said the people that work at home love it. He said because you've got so many people working at home now. He said now we're not disrupting their day,
Hmm.
and so
But
yeah,
you think about what all that stuff means is that we see more. Every time you see somebody complaining about that it makes too much noise, a leaf blower, and can you plug it into the wall or can you do this? All of a sudden, you have people who are anxious, and that leads to claims. So
right,
what we're going to
right,
do, so what we're going to do now is talk about liability versus DNO. Okay. So when we
mm-hmm,
talk about a standard liability policy. Okay, this is a standard. I don't care if you're talking about a general liability policy or auto policy or any kind of liability policy. We're
mm-hmm,
talking about a suit for damages. Okay, what all we're talking about is a suit for damage, which is legally obligated to pay for damages. Suit for
mm-hmm,
damages. So it's really important. Meaning this, Sherry, you get in an auto accident, right? All of a
mm-hmm.
sudden, guess what? You're upset because a person crashed into you. You you want to sue for damages. You're upset. So a lawsuit's coming for damage. You're gonna pick up the phone and call one of those guys, 1-800, whatever the guy is. You know those rhymes by
Yeah,
heart
the
now.
50 lawyers, the 50 lawyers that I see on TV every day.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So you
Right.
call them up and
Mhm,
you want to win all this money, okay?
mhm,
Or if a
mhm,
tree falls on your car, because of the neighbor didn't trim the trees properly. I mean, you want to sue for damages.
mhm, of
Now,
course, yeah.
this is the difference, and this is why it's so important to understand DNO, because when we talk about the things we just talked about, okay, in terms of the leaf blower or the landscaper or the people who want it is when you talk about a DNO policy, that the DNO policy does not cover, you're not talking about suit for damages. You're talking about a
Mhm,
claim for losses.
right. A
Okay.
big difference, big difference. A claim can turn into a lawsuit, but many times in an association, they just get claims that get settled.
Exactly. And that's what we
Mhm,
just talked about earlier. When you talk about that leaf blower, I can imagine the unit owners who live there went to the board of directors, and the board says, listen, I'm going to make a claim against you because you have leaf blowers that come in 7 o'clock in the morning and blow it. I can't sleep. So I'm going to hold you responsible, board. You have to do something about this. It's ruining my quiet enjoyment, my condominium association. So I'm making a claim against you. Okay.
mhm,
Now,
mhm,
he says it right here. The Dino policy has a right and duty to defend any claim.
mhm,
Okay. The
mhm,
GL policy has a right and duty to what? Okay. A claim for damages.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
If I want that leaf blower to stop blowing his leaf making a noise, I'm not asking for damages. I just want the board to go out there and say, guess what? Stop making all that noise.
Right, right, exactly. It's really just they want a change in behavior. They're complaining about something. It's not necessarily about money, and they don't want to file a lawsuit or anything like that. It's usually some kind of complaint.
Yeah, but that complaint may lead to a lawsuit. And guess what? Guess what happens now? That leaf blower continues to make the noise, and all of a sudden that board member just ignores him. Okay. Now he's
Mhm.
saying, I told him to stop. I told him to stop. I put many of these claims against him. Now guess what? Now I'm upset because I'm noticing that he starts in my front of my house at 7 a.m. But by the time he gets to his house, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, and he's at work. I can't handle it anymore. So now I'm on him for, not only because I want a judge to say, stop doing it, okay, but you know what? I might want damages. And I may want
Right,
damage because he's making this noise. I can't get my work done, so I'm gonna have a
right,
loss of income. So now I'm suffering damages. So in the
right,
D&O policy, we talk about both. We talk about just a claim to stop something, stop the leaf blower, or it's claim for you didn't took too long to stop him. So as a result, guess what happens to me? I want
ex
money. I want damages.
mhm. So anything could turn into a lawsuit. It could start out as a very basic claim, but turn into the lawsuit. So it's
Yeah.
really important, Kevin, for D&O to have a D&O policy to have that claims coverage.
That's
Extremely.
it. And that's a good point. I'm glad you said that because not all D&O policies will say a loss because of a claim. Some will say a suit for damages. So if you have a
Mm,
D&O policy out there and it's a suit for damages, the things we're going to talk about, the three things that are going to cause these problems, guess what? These three trends we're seeing may not be covered under your D&O policy.
wow. Okay. So that's very, very important to distinguish that when to take a look at your D&O policy, see what it covers, see what it doesn't cover, and make sure that you're getting the right type of D&O.
hmm Okay, so let's
Absolutely.
talk about the rules. Let's talk about the things impacting your D&O policy, the trends. Okay, the number one
Mhm,
trend right now that we're seeing is the rules impacting community associations. Okay, there are
mhm.
rules out there that the association must follow. Okay, it starts with the association documents, the CCNRs, the bylaws, the articles of incorporation. Those are your basic fundamental rules of a community association.
And Kevin, the thing is, many people don't read those rules or aren't familiar with them, and they get that 150-pound dog, that they love, and the limit might be 100 pounds or 50 pounds, and that's when the problems start, the emotional support animals, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and that's it. You nailed the problem right off the bat. Is that people don't read the rules. Even if a board member don't read it until somebody says, guess what? There's a 100-pound dog next door, and you know that there's a 50-pound weight restriction on there. What's going on? So now all of a sudden the board looks, well, yeah, they're right. And now all of a sudden they say, guess what? You have to get rid of your dog or put him on a diet or whatever. Okay. But guess
Mhm.
what happens to that board member? What's that unit owner what the dog is going to say?
They're gonna say, "No, I'm not getting rid of my dog. It's given to me by my mom, it's a member of my family, etc." So they file a claim.
Yes. And now they're filing a claim not for damages. They want to file a
Mhm.
claim because they want to believe that the board is incompetent and don't have the authority to tell me to get rid of my dog. And
Right.
this is where the problem comes into play when we talk about the rules impacting community associations, because nobody knows all the rules impacting community associations. Nobody.
No.
I mean, you
No.
can read every single document you have. You can understand your state laws. Okay. Does your state law require you to have reserve studies? The state law requires you to have some type of fund set aside. Does your state law requires you to do certain things in your state versus another state? Does the
Mhm.
Fed require you to do something?
Right.
In
And
terms
they're
of
and
Fair
the and
Housing Act.
Kevin, and the laws are changing all the time. They're
Yeah.
constantly changing.
Mhm, mhm. Like in
Mhm.
Florida, they have laws right now to make sure you have structural integrity.
Right. Exactly. Inspections have to be done more often
Mhm,
because of
mhm.
Surfside, what happened at Surfside.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in California, they have balconies got to be inspected. So there are rules constantly changing, and no one knows all the rules. And guess what? How they find out? They find out the hard way when somebody
The
says you're not following the rules.
Right,
Mhm,
exactly. Yeah,
mhm.
they don't realize a lot of board members just don't understand the magnitude and how much they have on their shoulders as far as responsibility and, being aware of the constant changes in the industry that are affecting the association, the homeowners, and themselves and the association.
And it could be something simple as elections. We see a lot of election disputes, right? And it could be something simple like, wait a minute, you have to send out these notifications 90 days ahead of time, and it's 120 days. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, guess what? I think you're in violation of association documents, and I want to a court to invalidate the election. Okay.
Right.
Now, something simple
Yes.
as that, right? I
Right.
mean, we see
Right.
that all the time. I want the court to invalidate the election because you didn't do it in a timely manner. You didn't cross all your T's and out of your I's. You didn't do the things, the simple things in there. Now, guess what happens? Now you get before a judge. Guess what the judge is going to say? He's going to say, how were you harmed? Right? How were you harmed?
Right.
And guess
Right.
what? You weren't harmed, but no,
No.
I'm harmed because I am a stickler for the documents. The document says 90
Right.
days, 120 days. You have to. The judge will say, okay, we'll have another election. But
Mhm.
guess how
Mhm.
much money that's going to cost the D&O carrier to do that?
Right, exactly. And
The
there's a
D&O
lot of
carrier has
people,
to.
that work at home like me who have time to read all the detail, all
eh, mm,
the
I mean,
information.
exactly. Especially if you live, let's say you live in a 55 active adult community. Okay, now all of a sudden you get this notification that the election is in 120 days, and you know there should be 90 days. You have nothing better to do. You represent yourself in the court. You say, I
Mhm.
believe that these board are incompetent. It all should be removed because the
Mhm.
election dispute there for 90 days. And there's no
Mhm.
damages, right? And the judge says, what do you have to lose? Why are you bothering us? Okay. But in the meantime, that board of directors has to get a lawyer, has to go out and say,
Mhm.
yeah, you were right. We should have done this. Go to the documents. Yes, yes, yes. And now it may cost $5,000, $10,000 to do it. And
Mhm.
guess what we
Mhm.
look at on the DNO side? We look at, I can't believe this claim just came in.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And we've also had issues with dogs
Hmm.
and kids on razor the razor
Those scooters.
the
Yeah.
scooters
Mhm.
going flying down the middle of the street, when they get out of school and stuff like that. And just a lot of I mean, there's just so much in a neighborhood that can happen, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, when kids and dogs are involved and etc.
And the
People
key
have a
thing
lot of
is,
reasons to complain. Let me put it
and,
that way.
and and that's the issue, is that there are rules impacting. We don't. Most people don't understand the rules. They don't know the
Mhm.
rules, and they only take the time to figure them out because again, the board of directors are there to do one thing: to maintain, enhance, and protect the association, not to wonder what's on Netflix tonight or did you watch the Super Bowl or all those things. That's great. They can learn that, but protect, maintain, and enhance is the number one thing they have to worry about.
Absolutely, and that's why DNO is so important.
Mhm.
You have to have it. I just want to mention my email address one more time if anybody would like a copy of the PowerPoint today. It's sherry.branson@amwins.com. And again, we're going to do a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions, feel free to send us a question. Looks like we had a couple that came in, Kevin. So
Okay.
we do have a couple of
All
people
right.
that
Let's
are
go to number two.
okay. Number
You know,
two, and please.
we enjoy talking about this stuff, guys. Okay, so number two, increased cost of doing business. This is a big issue that's impacting community associations because of inflation. Now we know because of inflation, number one, the insurance rates are going up. Okay, we know that. Everybody knows that, but they don't understand it. But the cost of just the your electric, your gas, that it's gone up. But it's gone up too because of COVID. Because now you're home now. So the gym may have been empty from 9 to 5, but now 2 o'clock in the afternoon, people are going to the gym, the clubhouse, that are using more power than they used before. You got people with EV, electronic vehicles, right? They're using power a lot more than they used before. So, but guess what they're doing? The board members are doing. They're still saying, guess what? We have not raised our assessments again this year. Congratulate
Right,
us. And they go to these board
right.
meetings and said, no, no, we kept our assessments low. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, they run a fine line, Kevin, because they know if they raise those assessments by a lot, it's their job to maintain the association, like you said, and preserve it, et cetera, and take care of it. They have the duty to do that. And the other side of the coin is if they have a large, if they raise the reserves quite a bit, the assessments quite a bit, then they're unpopular. They might get pushback, et cetera. They might get voted out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
they become unpopular, and we don't want that. We don't want to be unpopular. You look like right now,
so
right
let's
now the
keep
government about
everything
to
the
shut
same.
down. Yeah, government's
Yeah,
about to shut down right now. Why? Because they don't want to be unpopular. They don't want to make those
right.
tough decisions. Okay.
Right,
So we're
right.
facing this. If you look at these condominium associations, these homeowner associations, they're facing the same thing the government is facing. You know, they can go out and assess everybody and say, that's what we want to have special assessment so we can protect, maintain, and enhance. But instead they do that, they go, guess what? It's going to be the same amount of money as it cost you for the past 5 years. Don't worry about it because I want to be liked, right?
Mm. Yeah, unless the state passes a law like in Florida, where you
Mhm.
have to raise the reserves and do a reserve study on a regular basis, which could be waived before. They used to be able to waive it in Florida, a reserve study.
Yeah.
Now the state law is they have to do it, and they have to bring the reserves up to where it needs to be to keep the structure safe, blah, 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 et cetera. So
Now,
it depends on, yeah,
and now here comes the big problem with this that we have to talk about is that now when I don't have enough money, or Sherry, you don't have enough money, what happens? You pay the bills that are
yeah,
important to you, okay? But here's the thing: if your roof is leaking, because we had a lot of rain in California, if your roof
yeah.
starts leaking, and it could take 10 grand to put a new roof up, what's going to happen?
Well, yeah, then now, that's expensive. That's
Yeah. You put a
expensive. A lot
tarp
of
over
people
it.
can't
Yeah.
do it.
You put a
Yeah,
tarp over it, put some bricks and a tarp over. So guess what? You're not paying, you can't afford it right now because
yeah,
what?
you
We
have to
have to
put it off.
reserve properly.
Right, exactly, exactly. Yeah, and condominium roofs and HO and townhome roofs are very expensive.
Now, also, what happens to that railing that was loose before? But what are you going to do about it? You're going to duct tape it, or you're going to get it repaired? You know.
Right,
But the
right. And
problem
what
is
if there's
again.
balconies? What if there's balconies on every townhome and every condo has a balcony? All those
Mhm,
balconies.
mhm. So
Yeah.
so 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 the point is that because of the increase doing business, and
hmm
these board of directors hasn't budgeted properly, we
hmm
expect to see a lot of maintenance issues. Okay, well, I guess that sounds right. A lot of maintenance stuff happening out there that it's got to be taken care of, and it's not going to be taken care of. So going back
Right.
to what protect, maintain, and enhance. How can you protect, maintain, and enhance if you can't afford to protect, maintain, and enhance?
Right, right. That's the bottom line. A lot of people will have to sell their unit, or
Or sell the whole association.
right, right, which we've seen happening as
Yeah.
well, the
Mhm.
deconversion, the selling of the building, et
Yeah.
cetera. Then they have to
Well,
make offers on all the condos.
and what happens again? It comes back to the DNO. Okay, you
Mhm,
failed to collect assessments. You failed to have a
mhm,
special. You failed to have a reserve study. You failed to do the
mhm.
things necessary to enhance, protect, and maintain our association. So we're going to sue you for monetary losses. Okay,
Right,
we don't
right,
like
right.
what's going on in the association at all. You know, my unit
Mhm,
value was worth $250,000. Now it's worth 125. And guess who's
right.
responsible for it? You are, because you failed to do the one thing that you should have done: collect assessments. You should have raised assessments every year. You haven't done it.
Yeah, it's one of those things you kick the can down the road and
Mhm.
just keep putting things off and putting things off, and it snowballs
Yeah.
eventually,
And guess what? It
and it's
all goes to the DNO policy. So we're all looking again. These are things we look at every year and go, okay, what trends are we seeing? And is it getting better or worse? And we say right now, COVID has impacted us. COVID has impacted us because right now people are home and they're seeing things. They're not doing a job they should have done. They have to increase the budget. Inflation is an issue. They ignore it. So,
Yep, everything is more expensive now, repair costs, contractors, et cetera. I mean, everything has gone up. And,
yeah.
the board members, they're part-time. It's not their full-time job. A lot of them, it's just a part-time thing they do on weekends or a few hours here or there. They have full-time jobs. So it's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. All right. Ready for the third one.
Okay.
This right here, the third one, is the biggest one right now: reputational damage. These
Mm-hmm.
are all the unit owners who live in these community associations who feel they've been mistreated by the board. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
go back to my election person, that guy who read the documents and says, I can't believe how incompetent this board is. It's 90 days, it should be 120 days. And guess what that board member, that's that you were board of directors and you get a letter from a homeowner saying that, well, your election is late by 10 days. It should be 90 days. It should be you're 100 days over. So guess what? You need to redo everything all over, reprint everything, and do all this stuff. Your election's invalid. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, so now so as board members, what we're going to say? That guy, something's wrong with that guy, right? Something, I can't believe this guy is doing this, right? We
Right.
we're not going to be too happy with him, are we?
No, no, of course not. No, because he turned everything upside down, all that
Hmm.
work of having the election.
Hmm.
Now they
Yeah,
could get sued over it,
yeah.
et cetera. It's a mess, really turns into
So
a
so
mess.
we're going to do. We're going to either ignore the guy and not do anything, or we're going to say bad things about him. You know,
Mhm,
but whatever we do, it's not going to be the right thing. We're not going to say, sir, guess what? You're correct. We did improperly handle election because no, what we're going to do? We have a new election just for you. We're not going to do that, right?
mhm.
It's
No,
not going to happen. So
no, they're
what,
not gonna
what
be happy.
Yeah. So what's going to happen is that person is going to feel like nobody cares about him. He's not being heard, not being listened to. So he's going to
Mhm,
sue the board because he's been
mhm,
mistreated. He's been defamed. Okay.
mhm,
He was
mhm,
slandered in the meeting. He might even lie about it. Maybe put something in the minutes that said this guy is incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. He can't even read, you know? So,
mhm,
and when you
mhm,
say these things right there, now you're talking about defamation. And defamation right
mhm.
now is the big issue in these community associations because I'm living in them. If you live in them, what happens? You know,
Oh, yeah.
you have a right
People
to
get
be
to
able to say.
Facebook people get on our Facebook page and they start going, "Ba, ba, ba, ba,"
Mhm,
and it but works both ways too, like, homeowners are, defaming board members, because
mhm.
there was a mistake in our budget last year and everybody was complaining about it and, you know, saying this
And
board
again,
member doesn't know
but
what they're
what
doing and blah, 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 you
But
know?
what happens is that when you start defamation now you talk about money. When you defamation, the lawyers out there love to hear the word defamation, reputational damage, because I walk through here every single day, and the board, I'm at the pool, and the people are talking about me because I wanted one thing to have your election in a timely manner, and now all of a sudden everybody's making fun of me because I read the documents and I'm following the documents, and these board doesn't do it. And now they think something's wrong with me because I'm making a big stink of it. And yeah, it cost them $15,000 to do it. But if they would did it the right way, it wouldn't cost them any money. So what happens now, you've defamed me to the point where I can't even go to work anymore. And guess how much money I make a week? So I'm suing you for, by the way, how much of your liability insurance you have? Oh, 2 million. Oh, how much umbrella coverage you had? 15 million. I'm suing you for $15 million.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, they'll go to the limit. They'll go to the limit of the policy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Kevin, that just brings up a point that I'd like to make. When we did the webinars last year with travelers talking about board members getting advice, professional advice, etc. Having an attorney on staff, having somebody to talk to, to run things by regarding elections, etc. It's really a great idea to talk to the attorney, the
Yeah.
association attorney.
And one thing I add on here: managing discrimination, bullying, and harassment. Make sure you have an anti-bullying and harassment policy, because if you're sued, right? If you're sued, and they say, judge said, "Can I see your anti-harassment, bullying policy?" And you say, "We don't have one." Guess what's going to happen?
Right. That's yeah, that's not good. That's
Hmm.
not good at all. They'll have
Hmm.
to put one together quickly.
Yes, yes, and backdate it like, yeah, we had it for the past 10 years. What do you?
Had this for a long time.
Mhm, mhm,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to the job, to
Mhm,
this volunteer job that they don't get paid for. It was kind of a thankless job in a way. They're doing a lot of work, and there's a lot involved, especially, in my neighborhood in particular, there's just so many people and so many things that come up.
mhm.
It's
And it's bad now because of COVID. If we live in a post-COVID world, I'm home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and normally I'm home till 5 or 6. And I'm here at 2 o'clock
Mhm,
in the afternoon. I'm seeing signs there that offend me. Okay,
mhm,
how dare they
mhm,
have that sign in there? First of all, it's against us documents to have signs in the window. They have signs at all, and they have one that I'm offended by. You know, and my
mhm.
feelings are hurt by.
Right.
And I'm starting to use I feel words now. I mean, I feel threatened. I feel that I'm not cared. I mean, come on, we're laughing about this thing, but that's the world we
Mhm.
live in now because
Yeah.
of we're at home and these things
Mhm.
matter. These things
Right,
matter to us.
right.
And the little things that we thought didn't matter years ago, today they matter. And as a
Yeah.
result, we're seeing them on the DNO side. We're
Mhm.
seeing these kind of claims where my feelings were hurt. You know, my reputation has been destroyed because you made fun of me because all I wanted to do was follow the rules. Your trash can's been out there all week, and the trash can to be put back in your house by a certain time. I've seen them out there
Mhm.
3 or 4 days straight. So I'm gonna have a violation letter against you. Oh, you picking on me because I complained last time and I'm being hurt and I'm being mistreated.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
costing us.
that's a
It's
big issue in my
costing us a
neighborhood,
lot of
trash
money. Yes.
cans. Mhm, mhm. And dogs that get off a leash and run around
Yeah.
without a leash, that just became an issue the other day.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, I think
And
we
it's
got to
an
stop
accident.
griping. Let's give them some
Yeah.
good news.
Yeah, we do. The
Okay.
complaint department. We'll close to the complaint department.
So let's talk about how to avoid some of these suits, and that's the key
Okay.
because we want to give some really good advice. Okay,
Mhm.
um, number one, is understand it's a business. It's not a
Mhm.
hobby that you do have to maintain, protect, and enhance the association. That's your job. Okay.
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
you have 100 units and they're $1 million a piece, you have a what $10 million, $100 million operation you are running. Okay.
Mhm.
If you look at it, I have a $10 million operation, $100 million operation. Put that hat on, that business hat on, and guess what? You'll do a good job. Don't even worry about it.
Mhm.
Um, and again, understand the basic responsibilities of a board. Make sure
Yeah.
you read the documents.
And seek advice if you need professional advice. Speak to your attorney.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, we should put that one in there. So we have a risk management hotline. If you
Mhm.
think it's a claim, don't forget we said the definition between a claim and a lawsuit. If it's a claim, let us know it's a claim. Because if you don't let us know, then that $5,000 to protect them because of that whatever the whatever it is, save some money. Put us on notice and claim. And you don't know if it's a
Mhm.
GL claim or a DNO claim, put us all on notice. But above all, make sure you have a DNO product that responds to community associations. If it's a
Mhm.
claim for damages, money damage, non-money damages, shouldn't matter. As just as a suit for damages. Difference between a suit for damages and a claim for loss. DNO should be a
Mhm.
claim for loss, not a suit for damages. So,
Mhm. The non-monetary, non-money claims coverage is extremely important because in associations, most of the claims are non-monetary. People
mhm.
are not looking for the money. They're looking to fly the flag, paint the house blue, etc., have the dog, have the pet. So that coverage is really important. And as
Yep.
Kevin
Mhm.
mentioned, we have a risk management hotline, which can be accessed if you have a D&O policy through Travelers. And the phone number is up on the screen. It's 855-548-8656. It's available Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and you'll get a free 1 hour with the law firm of Cole, Scott, and Cassane. So feel free to utilize this great resource and tell your customers about it, that it's available. It's a great resource if they have any questions about should I submit this? Somebody called with a complaint, somebody sent me an email complaining about trash cans or a dog or whatever it is. At least it's a great resource to get advice, to kind of nip something in the bud, to at least know you're handling it properly and it doesn't turn into a huge problem.
And we also, guess what? We have a podcast. I have a podcast. I partner with Robert Nordland, who's a reserve study specialist, called Common Sense for Common Areas. I do once a month. Look it up. You can go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whatever your favorite is. And these things we talk about, we have a really in-depth conversation about reputational damages. We talk about why the rates have going up in insurance. So check it out. And yeah, it's a really great, entertaining podcast also. You learn a
It
lot
is.
about community associations.
It's really interesting. They've experts from all across the board. It's about insurance, but also many other topics about budgeting, about property management, etc. It really is a great podcast. It covers just a wide area of topics. Great. Thank you, Kevin. And now, Kevin, we did receive a few questions. So let's see what questions we have here. Okay, this is anonymous. As the new broker, when the insured is changing D&O carriers, I typically obtain a separate signed warranty statement from the insured. Would you recommend this, or does it jeopardize the homeowner HOA in any way? Obviously, as an agent, I want this statement to protect myself. That said, I don't want to put the HOA in a bad position.
Okay. Instead of getting a warning statement, I would say, have a letter. Let them ask the question, do you have any knowledge of any fact or circumstance that may give rise to a claim? Okay. Let them answer that. So instead of having to re-warrant everything, they don't know anything, just go back to them. Have you have anything? So if they say no, you got that for your own protection. So the key
Okay.
thing, do you have any fact or circumstance that may give rise to a claim, board of directors? That's all you have to do. And that way
Okay.
you protect yourself and you protect it because they say, yes, we do. Guess what? Then put your current carrier on notice and then
Mm-hmm.
you're free. So that's how you answer that question. Good
Okay.
question. Good question. Yeah.
Yeah, very good question. We've never had
Mm,
that one before. That's very great. And Steve Grimaldi, thanks for sending in your question,
yeah.
Steve.
Mhm.
Every community association D&O policy has some form of a property damage exclusion, but
Yes.
some companies deny a claim under this exclusion while others cover it. Do you have any insight as to why?
Yeah. Okay. Number one, every D&O policy has a property damage exclusion. Some are more restricted than others. And the reason why, because without the property damage exclusion, you don't need a GL policy. Okay. Because in other words, your number one exclusions you have in the D&O policy are bodily injury and property damage because it's
Right.
covered under the GL policy. So that's the number one
Mhm.
reason why it's there. So if there's a situation where you have a breach of fiduciary duty because your roof's leaking and your roof's destroyed by an $8,000 painting, which was $100 2 weeks ago, but now it's worth $8,000, and you sue the board because the board failed to maintain the roof, that is a GL claim, not a D&O claim, even though it's a breach of fiduciary duty. So what the D&O carriers have done is put a called an absolute property damage exclusion in there to limit that. Now, if you happen to have a D&O policy that provides this kind of coverage, then be careful because that means they eliminate a lot of other coverages. I've not seen a D&O policy for community association that will pick up property damage. Okay, now there may be certain things that may give rise to other aspects, meaning that there's a special assessment now. A special assessment because the board failed to do something. So now there's a special assessment claim, um, but it still may be about property. So it really depends. It gets really tricky at that point in time. There may be some coverage there because the claim is about something different other, but it depends on how broad or restricted the property damage exclusion is. Most of them are pretty restrictive.
Okay, great answer. Thank you,
Mhm.
Steve, for sending in that question. And now we have a question from Amber Alex. And Amber would like to know, thank you, Amber, what happens when a board signs a contract that damages the membership because the contract did not protect the ownership and now work is not being done and members were assessed a special assessment for this repair?
No, okay. All right.
Interesting.
This is a good
Mm,
question. Okay. First of all, most policies exclude any kind of claim from breach of contract. Okay. Now, we will defend, and some of the other D&O policies will provide a defense for a breach of contract. That's the only coverage you're
mhm,
going to get. So if I enter into a contract to hire the landscaper and have a year contract, okay, and all of a sudden the landscaper disappears. He doesn't, he just disappeared. He can't afford it anymore, or somebody stole all his equipment. He's done. So now you have this contract, and you have a contract. No, that's not right. It has to be the other way around. So the contractor, he comes in and then we refuse. We say, we don't want your contract. We're going to breach the contract because guess what? We don't like the
the
job
work
he was
is
doing.
shoddy. The work
Yeah, we
work
don't
is
like the
shoddy or
job he was
something.
doing, so we're going to
Yeah.
stop the contract. Okay, now he's suing us, okay, for breach of contract. What we're going to do, provide a defense, but that's it. So all of a sudden now there's a judgment against him, okay, then
Mhm,
you have to have a special assessment and all the things you're talking about.
mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
and again, the reason why is the same as it was with the property damage. If you don't like the work he's being done, you can just, or if you even did like the work he did, you can say, I'm not paying the contract, sue me, and have my insurance pick it up. That's the reason why.
Mhm,
Yeah. Mhm.
mhm. Okay. Thank you, Amber. Thank you for that question. And Leanne Broom. Leanne.
Hey, this is Leanne.
Hey,
I haven't heard from her in a while.
Leanne.
That's good.
I know we
Nice
haven't
hearing
heard
from
from
you.
her in a while.
Yeah.
I worked with her on the umbrella side years ago.
Mhm.
Hi, Leanne. Thanks for joining us today and thanks for asking a question. Leanne would like to know what happens if your association docs only allow for a $10 per year, for $10
Yeah.
per year, and you cannot get the owners to pass an assessment. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Boy,
Th-
that's a
This
wow.
is this is no, this is the
$10 per
biggest
year.
problem you have because right now, again, everybody knows they have to have reserves and they have to fund the
Mhm,
reserves. Okay.
mhm,
And that's the issue is how do you fund the reserve? Okay. Well, you have a special assessment or you got to, and the problem though is that the documents will say you can only increase assessment 3 to 5% every year. Okay. Now, you got to
right.
raise it 10, but just pay for insurance. You're going to have enough money to pay for your insurance policy. So you need to raise assessments 10% a year. Okay. But you
Right.
need a vote of the board in order to do it. The only thing I can do, Leanne, the only thing I recommend is stand in front of the board and let them know, guess what? We need to do this right now, or we will be in trouble. In order for us to maintain the common area, in order to protect, enhance, and protect, do the three things is that we need to raise the assessments. It's all about communication. You got to be able to communicate with that board and show that if we don't do it, number one, our values of our home will diminish, and there's potential for bodily injury. Somebody can slip. The railing, the balcony railings are loose in there, so somebody can trip and fall. You can have these
Mhm.
kind of damages that
Sidewalks.
you don't want to have. So
Mhm.
it is a problem because most association documents don't allow you to have unlimited,
Right.
increase in your assessments.
So they have to change the documents.
Yes. Oh, yes. You
Mhm.
can change your documents, but it's hard. It's hard to change your documents, but not the easiest thing to do. The best thing to do is go from the board and say, "This is what we recommend. This is how we should do it."
Yeah. And then you're
Yeah.
doing your job. You're basically giving, then the ball's in their court.
Hmm.
Change the documents or not change the documents. And then
Exactly. Hmm.
mhm. Great. Thank you for the question, Leanne.
Okay.
And we've got a couple more. Do we have time? Oh, we've got
Sure.
3
Let's do a
more.
couple more.
Okay, okay. James O'Connor. Thank you, James. Hi, Kevin. Where do you think this hard market is headed? Is our pain and suffering almost over? That's a good question.
um, you know what? The problem with the hard market is that that's a good question. It's hard for us to from the liability part, from the property part of it. I don't know. I don't handle any property, but from liability, we're seeing these kind of claims happening more and more. And as long as people live in these community associations and not going to work from 9 to 5, the exposure has increased. So you have more slip
Mhm,
and falls. You have more property damage and bodily injury because they are home more. And
mhm,
and again, we live in a world with a 50-50 world where half the people don't like the other half. So you live in an
mhm,
association where no matter what rules the board comes up with we think they're unenforceable, they're discriminatory. So we're living in a world in the condos where it's going to be tough for a while. On the liability side, property can change. We go a couple of years without any hurricanes or wildfires, the rates will drop. But on the liability side, the D&O, the GL, any kind of liability, it's rough because we want to sue and hit the jackpot.
mhm. Yeah, unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of that, larger claims. We've talked
Mhm,
about that last year. Mhm.
mhm.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Kevin, and
how we doing?
thank you, James. Yeah, we've got, a couple more. We've got Lori Ryder. Thank you, Lori, for
Oh,
sending in.
Lori, sure. Yeah. Hey,
Lori,
Lori.
yeah, Lori,
Yeah.
I know well.
I think we had
Uh,
some people from our office come out there, see her. Anyway.
oh, really? Oh,
Uh,
wow.
okay.
Lori would like to know, how do you expect the Corporate Transparency Act requirement?
Oh,
Oh.
I was hoping somebody would bring that up. CTA, Corporate Transparency Act. This is going to be
Uh,
challenging because the Corporate
okay.
Transparency Act saying the boards have to. There's a notification provision in there, and then people are asking me how this thing's going to impact. It comes in effect next year, okay?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I see a lot of board resignations because of this thing,
Oh,
okay?
boy.
Right
She's wanting
now,
to know how it affects claims, Kevin.
what happens is it affects claims because there is exclusion under the policy that we're looking at to see does it work. In other words, it's a failure to abide by civil and state law, the intentional refusal to do certain things, the intentionality. Now, it doesn't mean that there's no coverage there because um, it's right now we're having a lot of conversation about that it's challenging right now. I've been getting a lot of calls about it. Right now the DNO will it respond or not? We're working on it. I didn't mention it at all when I talked about the federal statutes that I'm worried about. Fair housing, we worried about
Because
for
it's
years,
kind
but
of, we
this
don't know
one,
how it's gonna play out. We don't know
this
how
is a
it's
new one that's
yeah.
effective next year. And I tell you what, we'll have a talk in another 4 or 5 months, and we'll talk more about it. Good
Mhm,
question.
mhm.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Lori. Thank you so much for that question. We'll get back to it in
yeah.
another webinar. And Amber has one more question, Kevin. This is our final question. What if the contract was not a real contract? That's interesting. Just an estimate and didn't protect the membership.
Okay, so all right, um, okay, so let's say so the landscaper comes in and said, "This is estimate how much it costs to my landscaping service." Okay, um, and the board says, "No, we're not interested," and it's a special assessment. The reality to me is this: if the board, if you're a unit owner and you live there and you don't like the decision the board made and how they handle the contract, that's when the board gets sued. So the
Mhm.
board gets sued because even if they signed the contract, or didn't sign the contract, or should have signed the contract, you're suing
That's their
that board
mistake.
member.
That's their mistake if they're just
Yeah,
going off an estimate without a contract.
yeah. The
Yeah.
board made a mistake. It's an error in omission because they did something wrong. So it's a wrongful act. So again, when they get sued, they named in a lawsuit, then that's when the D&O policy may come in, depending on all the different factors. But the maximum you can get is some defense costs. You're not going to get the judgment part in there in terms of, guess what? As a result of this contract thing, the contractor's out of 100,000 or 50,000, whatever it is, or you got to pay as a person who lives there extra money. You can't get out of it. You're gonna have to pay.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay, great.
Okay,
Great. Thank you, Kevin.
are we
Thank you
done?
so much. Thank you. Yes, that was a lot of
Okay,
questions. Thanks for the great questions, everybody.
yeah,
And
and
thank you, Kevin, for a great webinar,
mhm,
our first leap year webinar, as I
yeah,
said, and we'll be doing another one soon. I'll be sending an email out. So
yep.
thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'll give my email out one more time. It's sherry.branson@amwins.com. And I can send you a copy of today's PowerPoint. And if you think of any questions later on, feel free to send me an email.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks a lot.
everybody. Thank you. Have a great
All right,
afternoon.
take care.
Bye-bye. Yep, bye-bye.